Right. So we have started with 12 fact apps where we have discussed even about the first one, which is called a single code database. So followed by this, we have even discussed about dependencies part, bundling dependencies. Next, configurations like externalized configurations, all that. Next, backing services that even discussed we have. At the same time, we have discussed even about isolation between build, release, run, all that. Next was stateless, because there is a difference of stateless to stateful applications, because whenever we are using, especially on enterprise applications, like if you remember, like stateful session beans, you might have heard about. Whenever we used to work on EJB, stateful session beans were there, right? So stateful applications and both stateless applications we use here in context to the rules like factor rules, 12 factor rules, and all that. The seventh point about exposing services through port binds. Now, whenever we try to understand about this from the 12 factor applications point of view, traditionally, if we see whatever the applications we are deploying to any of the servers, like either it can be of web server or application servers like Tomcat or JBoss, all that. Normally, whenever there are different HTTP requests which normally we maintain in order to uh, have a fundamental requirement which is something self-contained. Whenever we try to understand the requirements from the connectivity point of view. At the same time, whenever we are working on this port bindings part, this is fundamentally a requirement which majorly focuses on the microservices part, which majorly understand about the kind of service listeners which will be a part of services which we are maintaining in regular intervals, especially whenever we are using microservices, all that. Next, about concurrency part. Concurrencies is one thing which we need to be focused more on, because whatever the services we are using, these can be scaled, right? So this can be scaled, or this can be restricted. This can be restricted based upon the traffic flow, whatever we are maintaining, so that whenever we are working on this microservices, it majorly make us to have a parallel processing, because whenever we are working on this microservices, as far as implementation is concerned, we use a parallel processing, and as well as the concurrency frameworks, which are majorly used for speed up or scale up the transaction processing when we are working on the applications. Next one about uh, next one about disposability part, wherein the major understanding over the principle of this is to advocate the building of applications, whatever the applications we are developing and deploying and all that, wherein we require some minimum startup is required. When we are working on applications, the minimum startup is required. At the same time, it is always important for us to uh, calculate the startup and as well as uh, shutdown time, right? So because between the startup and as well as shutdown time, whatever the timelines to focus is more, right? So wherein it is extremely important for us to uh, keep the size of the applications, which majorly implemented when we are working on the startup to start shutdown time, all that. So for that purpose, generally, when we are working on the microservices, it is always important for us to understand over the minimal overheads, whatever which are essentially required when we are working on this. Next point about development and production. Are you listening? Are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes. Next point is about this development and production part.
Development and production part, right? So because whenever we are working on this development environment, wherein especially in context to the microservices we are building, different components we normally use. So different components will be used here. Whatever the component structure, whichever is maintaining by us, these components can be developed in the different microservices platforms. At the same time, whenever there are any changes to be made to the existing component, especially the major principle lies on my understanding and as well as keeping the development and production environments. We have to make sure whatever the possible implementation we have to be made into the existing application. Either it can be a single component or it can be in multiple components, because we may have different components uh, for different microservices we create. So that we have to make sure whatever the components we are deploying or developing should have a parallel process, right? A parallel process of implementation, which majorly initiates whatever the work progress we are working on, especially from the development part, which makes that continuation towards the production environment, all that. So this is also one of the an external important point we have to be focused, especially when we are working on the microservices, all that. The next thing about externalizing logs. When we are working on the microservices part, it's very important for us to understand about the complex, because there will be some complex systems we normally use, right? So different complex systems are the processes uh, which are involved, especially when we are working on the application. It is always important and advisable for us to break these services to the smaller parts, because whenever we are working especially on the large scale applications or the continuation, because there will be some applications which will be continued, large scale applications whenever we maintain. So whenever we are extending these applications in terms of the duration is concerned, there are possibilities sometimes, what I can say, there are sometimes that increasing the complexity, increasing the size of the system we are implementing leads to complexity sometimes because of the longevity, what is that we are taking. So it is always advisable that to divide this into smaller services, so that whenever there are any results we wants to maintain, because in terms of the logs we have to maintain and all that. So this decentralization of logs is what we can do, wherein by combining different small services, whichever we have divided into multiple parts. So normally these logs, which whatever are we storing, right? So whatever we store and all everything were stored in the local storage. This is where generally this concept of stateless and as well as stateful applications come into picture. But normally, whenever we are maintaining these decentralization of logs, especially for small services, it is always important for us to identify. So where and exactly where it has to be stored, like what kind of logging framework we have to use, like because what are the tools like whatever the tools and as well as what are the logging framework we want to maintain, especially when we are implementing the microservices, is essentially one of the important element we have to be focused whenever we are working on the logs, right? So this is also one of the key element. And last point is not last point, but it's not least point was about
I have a question here.
please go ahead.
Whatever we use is Splunk and all that all will come under externalization logs only,
Yes,
right?
yes. We use
Okay.
Splunk and all that. Yes, we use all that because whenever we are working on this, we use Splunk. Of course, but for limited applications we are using, because Splunk is not something we are using for all the applications whenever we are working on.
So
Because
what is the other tools or anything like with this?
which one for log framework tools you are talking about?
Yes.
Log framework tools, whatever we use, this is differs from the kind of environment we are using on. Because whenever we are
Okay.
using log frameworks and all, frameworks can be implemented. It's not only for DevOps environment, because even non DevOps environment also we use, right? Because we have different
Okay.
indicators will be there, like OVI indicators.
Okay.
So different indicators we
Mm-hmm.
use, because for logging framework I'm talking about, right? So because
Okay.
normally whenever we are working on the logging frameworks, usually this frameworks majorly focuses on the area of OVAs. OVA stands for like objective verifiable indicators and all, right? So those we use actually for log frameworks and all that. That is where generally we use, because Splunk is one
Okay.
of the kind which normally we are using now. Nowadays we are using Splunk, but especially in the legacy applications and all everything, there is a process of logging framework which normally will be categorized into four different areas. Like that's where generally we call it as matrix, like 4 into 4 matrix, right? So that
Okay.
sort of
Got it.
frame matrix normally we use. There is no as framework as specific as like as the new applications whatever we are working nowadays. So there is a difference which we normally see. That's where generally these log frameworks and all everything are being used for. Understood? Clear? Is it clear?
Yes.
uh, because this log frameworks majorly I can say like log frameworks majorly focusing on um, the kind of log summary, whatever the log summary which are required for us to uplift the application to the next level. At the same time, the kind of indicators, because KPIs we call it as, right? So key performance indicators to assess the performance of the process whatever we are maintaining. So these are the two major areas we have to be focused whenever we are working on the logs and all that. So for that, those are the two major elements we will be taking when we are working on the log frameworks whenever we are implementing all that. So these are the two major elements we use. Understood? Clear? uh,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
Aishwarya, right?
Yes.
So that also that we use. But whereas when it comes to Splunk and all everything, nowadays we are using it, right? So because the applications now, uh, the applications were like big data platform applications we are using now, right? So because we want to, what I can say, we want to establish both business elements. At the same time, application elements should also be placed in the single platform. That's where generally the importance by understanding the compliances, securities, right? So all these things are we using now. So whenever we are working on this Splunk, actually majorly focuses on the enterprise transformation. Whenever we are transforming enterprises from legacy systems to the new applications, wherein whenever we are working on data integrations, right? So whatever the data integrations we do, and that time whenever this Splunk products and all everything we use normally for the purposes. But earlier, when we see in the traditional approaches, legacy approaches and all that, we don't have that facility as separate as the log frameworks, whatever we use, like 4x4 matrix of that. That's how it was built earlier. Clear to you, right?
Yes.
Right. The last one about
Yeah.
package admin process, because managing the administrative process of the activities we are involving in microservices. So this is also one of the key element. So these are the factors which normally we use whenever we are working on the microservices. Is it clear to you? Understood?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are the points. So and tomorrow I'm going to discuss about, let me check. I'll just check. So what are the key elements to be focused? And you are focusing on the advanced level points, right? I think anyway you are well versed with the regular microservices. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you want some advanced level microservices topics to be covered. Am I right, Aishwarya?
Yes. Yes.
So that we are
Yes.
going to start from tomorrow. I'm going to start this from tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, because
Sure.
these are the things which are might be it might be uh, it might be a regular thing, right? So you may be having a regular
This I
idea
was
on
not
this.
knowing. This 12-factor app I was not aware of. So this was very useful for
Okay.
me.
I think there are a few more points to be covered. Let me complete that tomorrow, and from day after tomorrow onwards, I'll start the advanced concepts.
Okay.
Because
Sure.
12 factor apps, I think okay. Anyway, you're not aware of. Let me cover. There are two more points to be covered, two more topics. So once it is covered, then I'll get into the advanced levels of microservices. Is it clear to you?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I will continue tomorrow.
Yes.
Right. So I have so much.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.